the Senior Project Manager at Excite, the European Network of Science Centers and Science Museums. We are members of this organization with organizations that work at the interface between citizens and society and science. Beyond science centers and science museums, our members are also science festivals or universities, and even sometimes departments of cities that are really keen on involving citizens with science. So I think we're very fortunate today to have two great examples of brought forward by two of our member states, Romania and Belgium, about how to engage in fruitful ways of creating knowledge valorization, and also ways that are a bit innovative. And I think throughout the week, participants have been sharing examples of how to facilitate the collaboration and the cooperation between stakeholders to boost knowledge uptake. And today, as I said, we're going to see how to make things a bit differently, to spice up things a bit, if I may. So I've been digging in the documents from the Knowledge Valorization Unit when preparing for the session, and I was really glad to see that the involvement of citizens is highlighted as a necessary step to boost the impact of research and innovation. Because in my role, in my professional life today, I'm daily involved in working with museums and other science engagement organizations across Europe to empower citizens to engage with science and also research and technology to help them, among other things, make better, hopefully better, but always informed choices. Every day, my peers, so science engagement professionals, work to develop new tools and methodologies to advance our field, to better engage these citizens with science. And I would want to say that EU programs such as Erasmus+ or Horizon 2020 via the Science with and for Society strand of funding have helped us develop new ways of doing this. As an example, and I really could speak hours about this, but I'm just going to focus on one example. I would like to highlight the project, for instance, Voices, which Excite developed and ran. Through what we did is we prepared and implemented a groundbreaking consultation using the opinions of people across Europe to shape the future of European research. And for that, we involved more than 1,000 participants in focus groups run by science centers and science museums, where citizens were invited to express their hopes and their fears and their concerns, above all, their ideas about on the theme of urban waste. And the interesting thing, and very relevant, I think, to what we're going to be discussing today, is that the results of this consultation have directly informed policy, and as they were fed in several of the research calls that happened or took place in the Horizon 2020 funding program. And I wanted to add that beyond involving citizens when research are made available, so the results of research are made available, I think that it would be also important to engage citizens in the whole research and innovation cycle. And this means involving them from the moment where we are setting the agenda of the research to developing their own research question and involving them through the whole cycle until the evaluation phases of the project. This would ensure that this new knowledge matters to people, and also citizen-led solutions have a higher societal acceptance and are more socially desirable and therefore are more efficient. But I think I've spoken enough about my case and about Excite and the work we do and how is it at the core of our mission to involve citizens with research. And I'm going to give the floor to Marius Mitroi, who is the first speaker of today, and who will Marius works at the Executive Agency for Higher Education, Research, Development and Innovation Funding in Romania. And today he is going to share with us one best case, the one brought forward by Romania, which is a Policy Accelerator Hub. And this Policy Accelerator is building capacity in policy students to become the future policymakers of Romania. And I think that with this, I'm going to give the floor to Marius, and or today the screen. Unfortunately, we cannot be together.
Thank you, Carmen. So for this great introduction, and thank you to the organizer for having us here. So as Carmen said, I work with the funding agency for research, development, and innovation in Romania. We do have the two main core activities. One is funding, and we cover, as I said, higher education, research, development, and innovation, and we also have department on policy advice that its main job is to improve policies on research and innovation, come up with different ideas and different capacities in actually tackle the challenges that we face on a day-to-day basis. And so I worked in this capacity in the last 10 years in creating new policies, especially with applications in innovation and technology transfer. But the main challenge that we had was to bring and keep the passion for this up and running. And because creating a policy is about ex-ante analysis, it's about looking at data, coming with new approaches and new recommendations. But in doing that, sometimes you're not passionate about the subject, and it's actually really relevant to the work. And we started thinking about creating, tapping into the fresh new minds that are trained into government and politics, and even giving them the knowledge, creating the new wave of politicians, or even creating the new wave of policymakers, and using that, but starting today. So this is how we came up with Policy Accelerator Hub. Can you go to the next slide? I think. Sorry. Okay, thank you. So we actually got inspired by Business Accelerator. So we started looking into how Business Accelerator works and why they are so successful. So we crafted a program and then reached out to the university that is in charge with government and policy, and they have huge capacity in creating talent. So we reached out to them, told them about our initiatives, and we started the policy sector, this initiative, because in the end it was just in the beginning, sorry, it was just an idea, use university talent to solve society challenges, which is very bold and interesting, but it's in the end it's very hard to do. It's a challenge itself. So I will go through that. So I'll probably not go through the whole process because this is like 2 years of work already, but I'll try to give you, say, the main highlights and get your questions after that. So the next slide, please. Okay, so we started this in 2019. It was pre-pandemic, which was again a game changer for us in the implementation that I'll tell you more about later. But we started with the National Schools of Political and Administrative Studies in Romania, and also with the Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Romania, because we needed partners also from the private side. And we, in the beginning, we said that we want a physical hub, people where people can meet, can talk, get all the information in one place, which started like that. I think that we had a few meetings like that, and then the pandemic hit. We had to change our whole working scenarios. Next slide, please. So as I said, we aim to create, a physical space. Now we call it create a space of collaboration, but we actually aim to have a physical hub where people, students, policymakers, and also the private person would meet, to challenge, to help solve different challenges, and from an idea of a policy to the actual white paper or policy paper or policy brief that will be pushed in front of decision makers. So this was, and this still is, the main idea of the Policy Accelerator Hub, but we had to alter it and change it so we can actually have some results. So the next slide, please. So in the beginning, we actually looked around and tried to see how this, type of instrument was in place in different countries around the world. And we saw that there are different initiatives, so we were not the first one to do it. So we tried to learn from them. And some of them were very, very specific on specific areas, and some of them were more closer to the politics than that we wanted to be. So just because we understood that it's not one size fits all, so we actually developed something that we think that it can work for us. And of course, it was not like that from the beginning. So we thought that our accelerator will actually perform and have results from the beginning, which was not true, was definitely not true, and we had to change our model and to change our pattern because we were working with great talent. We were working with great people, students, and that were really, really passionate about their subjects. They really had deep knowledge about it. So we really had to adapt. And this is, I think, that the beauty of the program, that it grows from day to day, from month to month, and has different results. Next slide, please. So as I said, our vision was to use talent that we had in government schools and try to inspire them to accelerate the development of public policies in their area of interest. And we do that using academia, using public authorities, and also private sectors that was interested in actually pushing the policies. And the main example that comes to mind now is the business angel law, for example, which was controversial in Romania. It started from the private side. They were not able to push it in the form that they wanted to, just because they didn't know how policy making actually the road to policy making works. But we really got a lot of interest from them, telling them that we have this pool of students that wants to better understand how it works and try to get that policy updated and also put it through the process of actually becoming a public policy. So we really got a lot of interest from the private side in that area, and also we found passionate students that were able to put in the work. The next slide, please. So how we actually do it? Of course, we had that inspiration and passion thing that we wanted to have as a key ingredient in our accelerator. And I think that this should be and will still continue to be our main objective. Find passionate people, inspire them, put them together, create a community, give them access to knowledge. To more knowledge, give them access to professionals that can give them advice in time of need. And we actually had this tool called Brain Map, where we have more than 36,000 people, experts in different areas, that we can actually just send them an email, try to get in contact with them, see if they are interested in contributing to this initiative. And we did that, and we found people that were interested to mentor and coach students through a subject and try to make them understand the ins and outs of different areas, and try to put that knowledge over their passion to the subject. So these are the three main ideas that we want to use in developing the Policy Accelerator Hub, and we're still using them. So this did not change, just the approach did and how we did it. The next slide, please. So we used, I didn't cover this, so I should tell that we used master students, doctoral students, and postdoctoral fellowships, because we need people that have, a chosen path, something that they are passionate about. And because they are doing all these studies and analysis already, we want them to put them into good use and have them to have results in the end. The next slide, please. Now, as I said, we do have a series of events where we give them, and the program is structured in two different ways, where people didn't only connect or can connect and excel a policy, but it mainly involves a series of events, which now are more Zoom meetings or online meetings or one-to-one meetings, or coaching sessions with different people. And so we try to give them the time that they need and the knowledge that they need to actually have results. And if they have an issue, or they are stuck in an issue, we try to tackle that immediately and look at every one of them. And they're not a lot, so that there's not a lot of people. So we started in the beginning with 30, and we had actually 3 or 4 policies in the end. So we really have the resources to take our time, look into what they actually need, and come with different solutions. Next slide, please. Okay, so as I told you earlier, the events are doubled by a mentoring program. And this is mainly discussions with mentors from our database, people that are also, they have deep knowledge about the subject, or they had tried to implement a few policies in that direction, and they now just use their knowledge and passing it on to students that, I mean, they're not students, they're people that actually have a lot of academic achievements so far, but still they do lack the implementation side, or the hands-on doing policy. Next slide, please. So the main differentiator that we have, and the thing that we have, is the fact that in the end, they will be able to reach their policies into with policymakers, with people that we can actually take what they actually want, take their work and push it forward. And we actually had a lot of interest from people working at the European level that are in the European Parliament from Romania, and also from acting members of the Romanian Parliament that want to have different policies that do not have the proper documentation of the beginning, or the proper ex-post analysis, or they do have missing parts, and they find that this core of expertise that is actually growing into the Accelerator Hub can help them a lot. And they also can help us a lot. So it's a kind of a win-win perspective in my opinion. The next slide, please. So how does it actually work? And they said we have two main tracks in this accelerator. So we have the connect and accept, which means in the beginning, enrolling participants is registered only to connect with different people, to be able to attend meetings, attend events, ask their questions. And only if they are passionate about a policy or a subject, they will go into the accelerator program, where they can actually do the work and have our full, attention and so full commitment for them to actually succeed. Next slide, please. So our pilot started in 2019, and we had first 30 participants enrolled in the Connect side and 9 enrolled in the Accelerator side. It was actually also a challenge for us, because we were trying to tell them that we are going to help them doing something that we did not do before. So this was also a huge challenge for us. But we, after a long period of time where we actually put in everything that we wanted, we ended up with 4 policy briefs that were able to be pitched in front of decision makers, and some of them even taken forward by different interest groups that were interested in actually having that policy, to see that policy implemented. But the main thing of this program was that we understood, let's say, how we should change it, and pivot it and adapt it. Because in the next session, and this year we started with 60 participants and 25 people enrolled in the accelerator program, just because we were able to create teams around different domains and areas, and also brought 4 mentors on the program that were fully engaged in actually seeing this policies, having results. So what I want to tell you in the end is that, of course, this is an education program where we try to give knowledge to future policymakers, future politicians, or even people that we want to hire for us in the end. But it's also a training program for us. And for us as an agency, we learn a lot from them. I think this is one of the biggest added values that it was got. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for taking the time. Sorry for taking more than my 15 minutes. And if you have any questions, I'm here.
Thank you, Marius. I think you gave a wonderful explanation about this project, which is very interesting. And I think it's very interesting to confront students also with a full policy cycle and how difficult it can be from the ideation of a policy to the full implementation of it, and the obstacles they can find in the way. But now I'm going to give the floor to Valerie. So Valerie Pied, sorry, I'm going to put my glasses. She is a researcher currently writing her PhD thesis on the evaluation of art and social sciences projects. But today she's here to talk about a side project for her, but a truly inspiring and relevant one, and it's called Dingdingdong. Dingdingdong is a platform trying to advance the life of patients with Huntington disease. And for that, they use an art and science approach to empower these patients to become co-producers of knowledge about their own illness and to advance the field. So Valerie, I'm not going to take more time, and I'm going to give you the floor or the screen.
Thank you very much. So good morning, everyone. I'm very glad to be here with you today, and I would like to thank the EU Commission and the organizer for inviting me. So I will try to present today what we do in Dingdingdong, the Institute of Co-Production of Knowledge about Huntington disease. Next slide, please. Yes, so my presentation will have 3 parts, as you can see. I will start with a few words about Huntington disease, otherwise you won't understand anything. And in the second time, I will try to explain what we mean by co-production of knowledge. And then, of course, what does it change in terms of valorisation, which is the topic today. So next slide, please. Okay. So Huntington disease, HD, I will say HD from now, is a rare hereditary and incurable neurodegenerative genetic disease that causes significant motor, cognitive and psychiatric disorders and usually develops in midlife. It's very common to hear that HD, because of its bizarre physical and psychological manifestations, is one of the worst diseases in the world. A lot of doctors say that. Moreover, since the genetic abnormality responsible was identified in 1993, a test has been available that allows people with an affected parent to find out if they are carriers of the disease. Technically, it's very simple. It's a blood test, but ethically, psychologically and existentially, it's very, very complicated, because knowing that we are carrier of the disease is knowing with certainty that we will develop it one day, but we don't know when and how. And the neither when nor how is very essential in this story, but yet in practice, you are told that a catastrophe is inevitable. Of that disease then takes the form of a terrible prediction that closes the door on all possibilities. Dingdingdong was born to take the measure of this very particular situation. It is possible to know, while in reality we don't know much and we can't offer any therapy. And this situation put for the moment all the users of the HD in great difficulty and does not help to find a way to well live with such a disease. So at the beginning, I co-founded this institute with my best friend, Alice Rivière, who is a carrier of the disease. And my father has also a disease, not Huntington disease, but similar disease. And so that's why we decided to create that institute. And I have to say also that Alice and I are both researchers and artists. So next slide, please. So before this adventure, we with Alice made several observations. So for Huntington disease, we observed an absence of experiential knowledge about Huntington disease and more generally about neuroevolutionary diseases like Parkinson, Alzheimer, etc. Whereas such experiential knowledge exists for many other pathologies like AIDS, diabetes, hemophilia, and other pathologies. The main reason is that people with neuroevolutionary disease are considered to have dementia, thus unable to express themselves or unaware of their disease, which is for us strongly wrong. Neuroevolutionary diseases are very complex, and it's very difficult to describe what happens in the body, what happens in the spirit, but difficult does not mean impossible. We also observed that the medical knowledge is dominant, but incomplete and very problematic for patients and their relatives because it focused solely on the search for treatment and not on care. They take care of the cure, but not of the care. And so we also decided to create Dingdingdong to force a slowdown when medical definitions move too fast, are too crude, or flatten the enigma in what is already known. And moreover, it happens also that the medical definitions are not right, are not accurate, since doctors can't observe patients in their daily lives. And the third observation we've made is that there are about 20 French-speaking patient associations in Belgium, France, and Switzerland, but they all work separately. which is a big issue because we can see that there is a need, because otherwise there won't be so many associations, but they don't succeed to work together, so they can't do some lobbying for policy makers. So, but beyond Huntington disease, there are two main stakes for me. The first one is to create a new ways of understanding an experience that potentially concerns all of us, which is living with a genetically predicted disease. And the second stake is to experiment the concept and practice of co-production of knowledge. In other words, to find ways to create knowledge with the people affected by neuroevolutionary diseases and not behind their back. So next slide, please. So our goals are threefold. The first goal is to co-produce experiential knowledge on Huntington disease with and for its users, to create articulation between this knowledge co-produced with users and other existing knowledge, mainly medical one. And finally, to ensure that the knowledge produced and linked provides pragmatic solution so that users, whether they are carriers, patients, family, friends, doctor, or caregivers, can live honorably with Huntington's disease in their lives and or professional practices. Next slide, please. So now I will try to explain what are the main principles for us when we talk about co-production of knowledge. The first principle is that when we talk about users, we mean all the people concerned in one way or another by HD, meaning patients, families, friends, caregivers, doctors, scientists, artists, professionals. By professionals, I mean social assistants and etc. The second point is that we consider all these users as co-researchers, which means that they are put to work and therefore they are paid if necessary and have a say in the research conducted and its results. We consider also that all forms of knowledge are necessary and complementary. I mean, experiential knowledge, scientific knowledge, clinical knowledge, sensitive knowledge, and we consider them without any hierarchy. Finally, we consider, following the pragmatist philosophy, that knowledge can't be evaluated a priori and in abstraction from concrete situations. On the contrary, their epistemological value depends only on their real effects, on the differences they are able to make in the reality concerned. In other words, their cash value is found in the experience of those they concern. Next slide, please. So how do we do that? So we are a collective of researchers, philosophy, history of sciences, anthropology. We are also artists, video, dance, fine arts, virtual reality, but also patients, also friends, and also scientists, neurology mainly. And we all together produce inquiries by the means of humanities, social sciences, and the arts with the users. And we produce also forms of sharing and dissemination with the users of these inquiries. We need researchers and artists on the one hand, because we need to create ways of making knowledge with the users and not behind their back, and to deploy all the tact necessary for this very delicate task so as never to crush the absolute singularity of each experience. On the other hand, we have to make knowledge, in the sense above all to accompanying our work in the world so that it becomes effective. So we never dissociate research and art. Artists for us do research. For instance, Anne Colo, who is a choreographer and dancer, since the beginning of our institute explores the chorea of Huntington. Chorea is uncontrolled movements. It's the main and more spectacular symptoms of the Huntington disease. Because sometimes words are not enough or relevant, especially for knowledge of the body. So we can't explore the body without the specialist of the body. But researchers also are very important because they think with us what forms should be addressed to what kind of public or community, and pay attention that the relevant of pay attention to the relevance of these forms for each specific public. So we really don't dissociate art and research, and we always think together the content and the form.
Valerie, you have more or less 5 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So okay. So what does it change in terms of valorization? All of our works, books, reports, videos, show, etc., escape the strict evaluation of disciplines because they are always slightly disobedient. We always decide a form according to what we want to transmit, whether this form is relevant to the knowledge produced, and what we want to move. In other words, to the communities we want to reach. And I will give you just some examples. So next slide, please. So we do a huge inquiry during 3 years called Coping with Huntington, the HD in the Care of its Users. So you can see the first picture is what we called research report, because we had to do that for the people who financed us. But we didn't publish it exactly like a report. However, we made it more like a novel than a traditional report, which we believe has allowed it to have a greater impact within the HD community. Next slide. And we ended up publishing this report novel as a book, and we created our own edition department. But we also create posters. And we created several ones presented in different HD international conferences, as it is a format used by scientists to communicate about their research during these events. Otherwise, we are just invisible during this kind of scientific gathering or only perceived as poor patients. So it was very important to do that, to make the connection with the scientific community. Next slide, please. We also created a show, Bon Baiser de Huntington Land, which used the work developed in our institute through text, video, and dance. And then we transformed this show into a performed conference to be able to share it with professionals and scientific communities for seminars, a symposium, etc., because they couldn't afford a show. So we had to transform it in a performed conference. It was very important because to share the dance, the language, and the knowledge about the body, we need performance. And next slide, please. But we also created a series of videos based on interviews conducted with the users. These videos involve the performer Olivier Marbeuf, alias Dr. Marbeuf, in order to build a story that is equal to the violence of the gesture that is genetic testing, so that we can begin to tame it. This series of video features a doctor who gradually transforms a terrible situation, the announcement of incurable disease, into a situation that makes it possible. In other words, a situation where everything is to be done. The first video was shown in front of 400 doctors in Rio during an international congress about Huntington. We were invited in that congress, and we decided to show that instead of doing a classical conference. And next slide, please. And finally, we also created a film on the request of 6 patients at the beginning of the disease. They are gene positive, and they have decided to speak to other Huntingtonians in a film, absolute beginners. They are experiencing the onset of their disease, and they know that when it comes to their metamorphosis, they will always be absolute beginners. It's the very first time that people affected by Huntington's disease have spoken out publicly through images. They wanted to counteract the horrific images found on internet, which are extremely toxic for everyone. And for more than a year, we have shown and accompanied this field in healthcare facilities, cinema, cultural centers, conference, masters, etc. And now it exists on our website with different subtitles translated in different languages. Next slide, please, and I will finish, don't worry. Here the conclusion. So co-production of knowledge is in itself a way of disseminating the results of a research insofar as we engage the stakeholders in the research. They feel responsible in that way. They feel responsible for this knowledge and contribute to activate it in their lives, in their professional practices and their communities. But this work also requires us as researchers and artists to go beyond publishing and creating works, but also to accompany this work within the communities involved and to monitor the effects that had to the ongoing research. And it means a lot of work. Since 10 years, I think we did 400 intervention participation, and we are now part of the main association in France, Huntington Disease Association in France. I just say that they changed their logo. Before it was just Huntington Association, and now it's to live with the disease. So it's like we really wanted to transform an ecosystem. And so thank you very much for your attention. I hope it was not too confused because it's a very complex project. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Valerie. No, it was very clear. And I think that the use of, it's very interesting to hear how you're using art to empower patients and also to raise awareness between the scientific community of the need to take this experiential learning into consideration. Thank you very much. So I'm going to start with maybe some questions. I'm going to start asking maybe Marius one question regarding the accelerator. And so one person from the audience is asking us, should the Accelerator Hub become a standard part of the curriculum of university students, including for the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics disciplines?
Okay, so this is a great question. Thank you. I think that I'm biased, so of course, in my opinion, it should, but I think that we should be careful in this sense that we should not, push people into doing something that they don't want to do. So the curricula is kind of like that, so you have to do it. But if you have an option, I mean, we should be, I think in my opinion, it should be optional. It should be part of the curricula, but as an optional discipline. And should people, if they just want to do it, should do it, not be, I think this is my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Have you had any interest from this is my question, sorry, I'm asking. Have you had any interest from other universities about this accelerator?
Yes, we were actually contacted by a technical university that they want to develop something similar. So we are in discussion with them to see if we can support them with the knowledge of the process and all of that. So yeah, we did.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you another question before I move on to ask some questions to Valerie. And another person from the audience is asking the topics that policymakers are interested in, maybe, for the policy accelerator.
So we had a lot of interest in the topics that are now, say, on the wave in Europe, like Green Deal and things that are there to be grabbed. So there's a lot of interest in that area. But if we bring, for example, policymakers or decision makers that are in energy, they would be interested in that. If we bring policymakers that are in research innovation, they will be interested in smart specialization and other areas. So it depends on the people that are close to the program, to put it like that. And it also, we had a lot of interest in the, more social policies and ethnic groups and people with low income. And this came from our students and not the post.
Thank you very much. I have a couple of questions for Valerie, whom I cannot see, but I hope is there. Valerie, oh, excellent. Sorry. How do you find and connect to artists that are ready to engage in a project such as Dingdingdong? And what are they interested in joining the project?
At the beginning, so as I said, we co-founded the association Alice and High, and we decided to choose the researchers and artists we wanted. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, loud and clear.
Sorry?
Yes, we can.
Yes, sorry, I thought there was a problem, sorry. So and we really did choose the artists and researchers, but of course we were involved in those fields, Alice and I, because I'm a researcher, she's an artist, so we know a lot of researchers and we know a lot of artists. But we wanted, we precisely choose them in function of their skills and their research topic and their artwork. So we chose Anne-Colo because we knew her work, and for us it was very important that we have a dancer with us to work on dance. And they are interested because of their own practices. I mean, Anne-Colo she's interested in the project because for her, she told me that when she learned to dance with a patient, she never learned to dance like this, and she's dancing since 30 years. So, I mean, she learns, and that's very important that all the people in the collective, researchers and artists, learn from the field, from the experiential knowledge for their practices. I can't hear you.
Sorry, I was muted. I meant that it's advancing. I mean, it's advancing also the practice of these artists, and that's
yes.
The next question I had for you was the incentive for artists to join the project. But I guess this is one sufficient incentive. Another question would be so you pull your artists from the people that you know in a way, right? Have you been approached by artists themselves? Have you been approached by other artists?
Yes, sometimes, but we are very careful about that because we are now a collective of 15 people, and we don't we keep it that way. But it doesn't mean that sometimes we can't collaborate with other artists. Right now, we collaborate with a filmmaker, which is not in the collective. So sometimes it happens, yes.
Okay.
And can I add a word?
Yes, please do.
A message, because I didn't say that, of course, we are an association and we are independent and we are all volunteer as researchers and artists. And for me, it's a pity that our educational and research institutions or artistic institutions can't support projects like this. To me, it's not normal in a way. But we couldn't do what we do within any institution today. And that means a lot of work. As you can see, I did the presentation yesterday night. I have a work. We all do Dingdingdong beside our jobs.
I see.
So it's not completely normal.
True.
Thank you.
I will give you at the end of the presentation, at the end of the session, 1 minute or two to make a final statement. Maybe you can make a plea there. And I'm going to turn to Marius now to ask him a question that I will then ask to you also, Valerie. How can we turn social problems to social solutions through research and science using new ways of collaboration that engage citizens?
Okay, so I think that this, of course, this question has a lot of answers. But in my opinion, is that we need, passionate individuals that have issue and they want to see it through. So this is how we correctly identify people that wants to be there, want to do the job, wants to work for it, want to go the extra mile. So sure, definitely we need the research and innovation on our side there. But we, from our experience, we saw that there are a lot of people in research and innovation, a lot of professionals that could gladly help, even donate their time in order to solve this. So,
thank you very much. And Valerie, would you like to also comment on this?
It's a huge question, but I just want to say, because we talk a lot about empowerment, especially in the health field. And for me, the empowerment is to be able to do together what we can't do alone. So, of course, we have to, that's the main goal of co-producing knowledge, it's to create together the solutions. But we need all the skills together.
Actually, we could say that 1 + 1 makes 3 in this case.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, to you, but maybe Valerie, you can start and then we'll pass the floor to Marius. What are the incentives to engage in multidisciplinary stakeholder cooperations?
You mean, is that question about researchers and artists or about the citizens?
Well, I think it's researchers, artists, citizens. I think multi-stakeholder. In this case, you're talking about involving a number of people in your project. So what would be? Yeah.
So as I said, I think really when we choose the researchers and artists, we said okay, we don't want you to come because it's good, because it's for the patient. We want you to come because you are interested in the problem we put, and the problem is how to deal with the predicted disease. And it was for the historian of sciences, which is who works with us. It's very important for our own research work. So we always pay attention that they learn something from the field. And for the citizens and for the patients, in our case, and families, I think for them it was so important that we take them seriously, that we give them the word. As I said, in neuroevolutionary disease, they never speak. We never gave them the right to speak. So for them, to tell them that you have knowledge and we need to learn from your knowledge. So it's already therapeutic for them. And it's already something for them that it's enough to engage themselves within the work.
I see. Thank you very much. Yeah, definitely empowerment is a massive incentive. And maybe I can pass on the floor to Marius to answer this question. And then
I think that if we correctly identify the common interests, and this we should start from the common interest, then identify the correct communication channels and correct influencers. If I mean, I think that influencers work a lot in creating that snowball effect that we want in order to get the proper people, involved. And as long as their interests are there, they will definitely continue. I think this is, and of course, doing it very transparently, trying to powerfully believe in what we are doing is will have a result, and the result will be attributed to all participants.
Thank you very much. Since I have you unmuted, may I ask you to make a final statement in 1 minute for this session, and then I'll pass on the floor to Valerie.
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to thank you again for inviting me here. I think that this the last days with this organization event was really interesting It's a shame that we cannot do this live. And I think that we are still adapting to the new way of doing things, which is kind of a bit unpersonal, and we will hopefully evolve from that. But definitely it's, again, a learning period for us. Regarding what we discussed today, I think that the great power is in sharing information and make the information available. And based on that, I think that Valerie, we did a great job. So thank you for having me here.
Thanks so much, Marius, for being here today. Now, Valerie, I have one last question that came in very last minute, and I'm going to ask you. And once you answer that, I will ask you to go on and make your final statement. So the question is, the Huntington project, could you extend it in the sense, could you integrate more arts and art therapy to psychosomatic diagnosis? This came from the public.
A very difficult question, because what we do is really situated research. So, of course, I don't think we can replicate exactly what we do, because we adapt our tools to the Huntington specificities. But it doesn't mean that we don't have any connection with other pathology or other problem or other issues. And we work with Parkinson, with Alzheimer, with hemophilia, with AIDS. We work with other associations because we inspire also from them, but we never replicate. There is no model. It can't be. It's also our philosophical statement. It can't be a model usable for everyone. We have to start again each time. That's the work. But it doesn't mean that you can't find inspirations and resources. And of course, now we are working also on the way we can give resources to other people and to other initiatives. That's true. If it answers the question.
I think it really does answer the question. So I'm going to give you the word to make a final statement on your end.
I would say that it's a message to research community that, and I really strongly believe in research, but I think research doesn't end with a publication. It's the beginning, actually. When the publication is there, it's the beginning of the real inquiry. And we have the responsibility to follow the effect of what we are producing as a knowledge, because a knowledge is never neutral. It always concerns people. And we have to follow the effect, because they have to be participant to what we are creating with them, on them. So it's never, because we talk a lot about in terms of valorization or evaluation or impact on society. But we resume very often that with publication, sometimes a website, sometimes other things, other way to disseminate, but it's the beginning, it's not the end. So that's one message. And the second message is that I think we really need to change radically our way to think about evaluation and valorization, and to give that responsibility to institutions today.
Thank you very much, Valerie, for this. My turn to conclude. I want to thank you two, Marius and Valerie, for being here today and
thank
for
you.
the very interesting interventions.